3 scary, true first day on the job horror stories. Story 1 side. The haunted hospital ward introduction. Starting a new job can be nerve-wracking, but for Emily Johnson, her first day as a nurse at the old St. Mary's Hospital was beyond terrifying. St. Mary's was notorious for its ghost stories and paranormal activities, but Emily, a skeptic at heart, dismissed them as mere rumors. Little did she know, her first shift would change her perception forever. Day 1. Emily arrived at the hospital early in the morning, eager to make a good impression. She was assigned to the night shift in Ward C, the oldest part of the hospital. The ward had a reputation for being haunted, with tales of ghostly apparitions and eerie sounds circulating among the staff. Emily, however, was unfazed. She believed in hard work and logic, not superstitions. As the sun set and the hospital grew quiet, Emily began her rounds. The ward was eerily silent, the only sound being the soft hum of the fluorescent lights. She checked on her patients, ensuring they were comfortable and their medications were administered. Everything seemed normal until she reached room 306. The encounter, room 306 housed an elderly woman named Mrs. Fletcher, who was in a coma. Emily entered the room to check her vitals, but as she approached the bed, she noticed something strange. The room grew colder, and she felt a sudden chill run down her spine. Dismissing it as nerves, she continued with her task. Suddenly, the heart monitor started beeping erratically. Emily's heart raced as she tried to adjust the machine, but it seemed to have a mind of its own. The beeping grew louder, echoing through the silent ward. Panic set in as she struggled to stabilize the readings. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw a shadowy figure standing in the corner of the room. She froze, unable to move or speak. The figure was tall and cloaked in darkness, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Emily's breath caught in her throat as the figure slowly moved towards her. She tried to call for help, but her voice was caught in her throat. The figure reached out a hand, and just as it was about to touch her, the room suddenly returned to normal. The heart monitor stopped beeping, and the temperature returned to normal. The shadowy figure was gone. Aftermath. Shaken, Emily quickly finished her rounds and reported the incident to the head nurse. She was met with a mix of skepticism and concern. The head nurse, who had worked at St. Mary's for decades, advised Emily to stay away from room 306 as much as possible. She shared that many staff members had experienced similar encounters but chose to keep quiet to avoid ridicule. Emily's first day on the job left her questioning everything she believed about the paranormal. She continued working at St. Mary's, but she never set foot in room 306 again. The experience haunted her, a constant reminder of the thin veil between the living and the dead. Story 2. The abandoned factory. Introduction. Jake Thompson had always been fascinated by urban exploration and the stories that came with it. So, when he landed a job as a security guard at an abandoned factory, he was excited rather than apprehensive. The factory, once a bustling hub of activity, had been closed for years and was rumored to be haunted. Jake, eager for adventure, brushed off the warnings. Day 1. Jake's first shift started at midnight. He was given a brief tour of the sprawling factory, its dilapidated halls and rusting machinery, casting eerie shadows in the dim light. His supervisor, an old-timer named Bill, warned him about the strange occurrences in the factory, but Jake laughed it off. As he began his rounds, Jake marveled at the sheer size of the place. The factory was a maze of corridors, rooms, and old production lines. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of metal or the distant drip of water. Despite the eerie atmosphere, Jake felt a sense of excitement. This was his chance to experience something out of the ordinary. The encounter in around 2 a.m., Jake heard a noise coming from one of the old production lines. It sounded like machinery coming to life. Puzzled, he made his way towards the noise, flashlight in hand. The sound grew louder as he approached, echoing through the empty halls. When he reached the source, he was stunned to see one of the old conveyor belts moving. Rusty gears creaked and groaned as the belt rolled slowly. Jake approached cautiously, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. As he got closer, he noticed something even more disturbing, shadows moving along the walls as if people were working on the line. He called out, but there was no response. The shadows continued their work, oblivious to his presence. Jake's heart pounded as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. Then, without warning, the machinery stopped and the shadows vanished. The factory was silent once again. Shaken, Jake reported the incident to Bill, who listened with a knowing look. Bill explained that many guards before him had experienced similar events. The factory was said to be haunted by the spirits of workers who had died in a tragic accident years ago. Their restless souls were believed to be trapped in the factory, reliving their final moment. Jake's first day on the job had turned into a night of terror. Despite his initial excitement, he now understood the gravity of the situation. The factory was more than just an old building. It was a tomb for the souls who had perished there. Jake continued to work at the factory, but he never ventured near the production line at night again. Story 3, construction site. Now to us in Napa directions, and Samantha Reynolds was thrilled to start her new job as a project manager at a large construction site. The site was set to become a luxury apartment complex, and Samantha was eager to prove herself. However, the site had a dark history. It was rumored to be cursed, with several accidents and unexplained incidents plaguing previous projects. Samantha, ever the pragmatist, dismissed the stories as superstitions. Day 1. Samantha arrived at the construction site early in the morning, ready to take charge. She met with the crew, outlined the day's tasks, and set about familiarizing herself with the site. The workers were friendly but seemed wary, often glancing over their shoulders as if expecting something to happen. As the day progressed, Samantha noticed strange things. Tools went missing, only to reappear in odd places. Unfinished walls seemed to shift when no one was looking. The workers whispered about the site's dark past, but Samantha remained focused on her job. Towards the end of the day, Samantha decided to inspect the foundation of the building. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the site. As she walked through the unfinished structure, she felt a sudden chill. The air grew heavy, and she sensed she was not alone. She heard a faint whispering like voices carried on the wind. The sound grew louder, and she realized it was coming from the basement. Curiosity overcame her fear, and she descended the stairs, flashlight in hand. The basement was cold and dark, the walls lined with exposed pipes and wires. As she reached the bottom, the whispering stopped. Samantha shone her flashlight around, but there was no one there. Suddenly, she felt a hand on her shoulder. She spun around, but there was no one behind her. Her heart raced as she backed towards the stairs. Then, out of the darkness, a figure emerged. It was a man dressed in old-fashioned work clothes, his face pale and expressionless. He reached out towards her, and Samantha felt a wave of cold wash over her. She turned and fled up the stairs, the sound of footsteps echoing behind her. Aftermath. Breathless and terrified, Samantha burst out of the basement and ran into one of the workers. She told him what had happened, and his face turned ashen. He explained that the site was believed to be cursed by the spirit of a worker who had died in a construction accident years ago. His ghost was said to haunt the site, causing the accidents and mishaps. Samantha's first day on the job had become a nightmare. The experience left her shaken, but also determined to understand what was happening. She spent the following weeks researching the site's history and consulting with paranormal experts. Despite her efforts, the strange occurrences continued. The site remained plagued by accidents and unexplained phenomena. Samantha eventually left the project, unable to shake the feeling of being watched. The luxury apartment complex was eventually completed, but stories of the cursed construction site persisted, a chilling reminder of the events that transpired.